Hey, everybody, welcome to the GMI Rocket Show. I'm your host, Roman Zelichenko, and today is episode 99. 99 episodes of the GMI Rocket Show. I'm so excited. I'm a former immigration attorney turned entrepreneur. I am the co founder and CEO of Laborless, which automates H 1B visa compliance, and also the founder of GMI Rocket, which is a digital marketing agency for the immigration industry, and of course, which brings you the show. And today on episode 99, which is so exciting, we have two guests, so two co-founders um, of a company called Inception AI. So Shibin Sundaran and Raj Vijay, who are co-founders of Inception AI, are joining us from actually different parts of the globe to talk about a really cool and sophisticated AI tool that is, bringing a lot of efficiency and a lot of speed to the immigration industry. So I'm excited to dig into their story, their cousins, which is really cool. I'm excited to dig into how this company was built, and what they're doing today, and sort of how they are building really cool technology for our industry. Um, Before we get the conversation going, I want to say thank you to the main sponsor of this episode, Lex Reception. So for you all who may not know, if it's your first time here, Lex Reception is a legal intake, reception, and client support service company. From answering phone calls and messages in real time to scheduling appointments, Lex Reception provides immigration law firms with 24/7 legal answering specialists. So you, as a law firm, don't have to worry about missing a phone call or missing an inquiry from a prospect or even a client. Lex Reception staff can even proactively reach out to prospective clients for you who filled out a form on your site. They have a ton of integrations with platforms such as Clio, Practice Panther, LawPay, and others, so they can build into your tech stack. And if you're a listener of the show, you get $250 off your first month of service with Lex Reception. So check out the link in the show notes, or just reach out to Lex Reception and say you heard about them from the GMI Rocket Show. All right. So thank you, Shibin. Thank you, Raj, so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to dive into your story.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roman,
Thank you, Roman.
for
So,
inviting us.
of
Yeah,
course, of course. Okay, so we're gonna
really.
so with two guests, it's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with like one of you, and then we'll dive into a little bit into your background. We'll pause, and then I'll bring in the I'll bring the other person in if that's cool. So because then we can learn about both of you, and then we can sort of talk about how this all came um, together. So Raj, I'm gonna start with you, since actually you're the first one I met from Inception AI, and I love the connection. Just for folks who are listening, my colleague from law school, my law school friend Catherine, was worked with you guys, or still works with you guys, and so we saw her at a conference, and she said, "Hey, you have to learn about this company." It was really really cool. So I appreciate networks just from 10 more than 10 years ago bring in technology folks together. So thank you, Catherine. Shout out to Catherine if she's listening.
Right. She is listening.
Yeah,
Yes.
awesome. Okay, so Raj, you're based in. By the way, you're in New Jersey right now, and Shibin, you
Yes.
are in India. So immediately we have an international presence. So Raj, you weren't born in the U.S., right? So you kind of have your own immigration story to America. Can you talk a little bit about that? What was that? What inspired you to come to the U.S.? What were you looking for? What did you come here for?
You know, U.S. has been a dream, really. For many immigrants, and likewise, it has been mine as well. But yeah, I came to U.S. in '97, which is now looking at it, is it's so far, so many years have passed. But those days when I was coming here, it was much more liberal. And I would say the immigration landscape was much more liberal than it is right now. Um, but yes, I was working for a company, a multinational company in India, which had its roots here. It was headquartered here in New York at that point. And they were opening up a branch in Las Vegas, and that's where I first got the opportunity to migrate. So I first came down to JFK and then took a flight down to Las Vegas, and I was there for like 7 years. It was very interesting. First 7 years of my life in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. Since then, I've migrated all around the United States for multiple companies across as consultant, and right now put my roots down here in New Jersey.
It's crazy to think that your first experience in the U.S. was Vegas.
Vegas.
Were
Yeah.
you? Did you had you visited America before that ever?
No, it was just in our books. We read about United States, and that was it. But yes, that
Wow.
was the first time coming here.
So let me ask you, if we back up a little bit more, where were you born? Like, did you know that you wanted to work in the sort of technology or professional services sector? Kind of because you've been doing this for quite some time, and now you're an entrepreneur. Some people know I'm going to have a career at a company and I want to do this. Other people, they're just itching to build a business from when they're young. So I'm curious if you had any insights into what you wanted your career to be when you were younger.
Um, when I was younger, my dream was never to be in the tech space because back in the days, in when you talk '97, so I came out of college in '96 after my MBA. But back in the days in India, the computer was pretty new, right? It was just hitting the markets in India, and not many people had heard about it. It was very new. The concept of internet was just popping up here and there. So I did initially when I was first starting out. There was a firm that I looked at. They were doing some internet sales at that time, and that's when I first heard about them, right? But as a student working, I mean, joining college and all those days, it was very unheard of. But I always had a passion for computers. After I got to come to US, my first company, I that's where I saw the first computer, and I was thrilled by it. And I remember the person saying, you do whatever you can on this computer, and you can't destroy it, right? So do it, use it as you please. And that was like a big thing for me. So I would spend hours after my work working on, just trying to learn a little bit of computers back in the days. And since I migrated to US, it's always been my passion to be in the tech industry. So that
Were you like physically opening it and playing with chips and hard drive and drivers, or was it like you were messing around with the software and trying to understand how it worked, or maybe both?
both of it actually.
Yeah.
So when I first came here, computers were quite expensive, but then I remember Fry's, it's no longer in business, but I used to buy parts from them and put together my own computers, and it was
Cool.
always passionate. I used to love it. Yeah, so that's how I got my intro into the tech space.
That's
I
amazing.
was
When I was actually a little kid, I used to go. My uncle, who lives in Israel, he had a computer shop, in the '90s, because there
Yes,
was no, in America we had bigger stores that sold
right,
pre-built computers. In many other countries, you had to just there was no such thing. You had to go and purchase a computer from a shop that bought all the separate parts. And so, and I was a kid, and I would come in and sort of help him. Like, not I wasn't an employee, but I was helping him. And you get the box, and you put in the motherboard, and you put in all the drivers and the hard drive, and it's interesting. I mean, I didn't end up becoming a computer programmer, of course, but it's funny how in that time in the '90s when all this was coming up, it's just like this new toy, very expensive toy, but
very
nevertheless this new toy that the world is playing with. Um,
right.
okay, so I want to pause here for a second, and Shibin, thank you for being so patient. I want to kind of bring you in and ask you, so you guys are cousins, by the way, right?
Yes.
And did you grow up close to each other? Maybe whether it's proximity geographically or
Well,
at least close where you, yeah.
when we were growing up, we were all a part of one family. So we lived in one house. So there were like four brothers. My father had four siblings. So we all lived in one house. It was a big house with our grandparents, and for us, there was never cousins. We never called ourselves cousins. We always called ourselves brothers. So it
Right.
was very tight connection as a family when we were growing up, and then it's been um, uh, such a long time, but we still have that same connection as brothers, very close to each other.
Yeah.
So that
That's so cool.
kept us very close. So we call it joint family um, back in the days, but yeah, that's how we grew up together. So it was nice.
That's awesome.
Very
And Shibin, were you also into computers kind of as a younger kid?
Yeah, now when he was saying about his like passion for computers, right? I think I wrote my first program like outside, like school, in the laptop that he bought when he came from US for the first time. So um, I actually I never got interested in computers until I got my job. So like when I got my job, and then there was a training for like 3 weeks in my first job, and during that time, like they had like they'll teach you see all the programming languages in like 3 weeks, and then you'll have an
Wow.
examination at the end, right? And then at that time I realized that I was able to grasp it quickly, and then I was able to like program. And then when you find something easy to do, right, that is when you have a passion for that. So that is when that this is like when I was in like when you see all entrepreneurs and videos of them, right, they will say that they got their computers at like when age of 6. I started using at the age of 21.
Wow.
So yeah. And yeah, so I actually so we are extremely close, and I actually studied in India most of the time. I was born in Dubai, and then did my schooling for some time in Dubai, and then came back to India, and then did my engineering there. And then like from engineering I got a job immediately into an IT service company in India. And that is when I found that it's like for easy for me to code, and I felt a passion for it, and then I started working on it. And I started in automation. So automation is basically whatever someone does, right? We just write code to automate it. And then that was the first thing that I did on day one in my company. And then I did that for like a lot of all my companies till I resigned. And yeah, automation. So that is how Inception came out. Like it's basically automation plus AI. So
Hmm. And so, Shibin, you said you studied engineering. So did you study
yeah,
electrical engineering or structural engineering or something like
I
that?
studied electronics engineering.
Electronics
So
engineering.
electronics
Okay.
and electrical engineering. So
Got it. So
I don't.
you're a hardware professional.
Yeah, I don't remember anything, but like yeah, I did. I did engineering and electronics, but we have this computer science in the course along with that. So I felt computer science was more easy for me. So I took that path.
That's interesting. And then actually, Raj, just out of curiosity, I don't think I asked you. Did you also study engineering when you went to university back in India? I mean, you got your MBA, so obviously that's on the business side of things. But
Right,
for undergraduates,
right. I did my MBA, and before that, I was a graduate in commerce. So
commerce.
yeah, so that's interesting mix and how I got my foot into tech. So it was
Yeah.
self-taught before I came into the tech industry. So I was self-taught, and I've been doing this since I came to the United States. So it's pretty amazing having that
Yeah.
journey.
Well, look, you guys as co-founders of a company, you need both the technical skills and knowledge as well as kind of market understanding, business understanding. Having an MBA is really powerful in terms of knowing what to do. I mean, there are so many, let's say, companies, but even just tech companies where you have very technical co-founders, they've built brilliant product, but if you don't get the product into somebody's hands to use, what's the point, right? I mean, the whole purpose of really building something to solve a problem is to find the people who have that problem to solve it for them. So I think it's a really great mix, uh, which I see that in the legal tech space. There are a lot of attorneys that have a great idea and have very technical knowledge of a particular segment of law, and then they work on a legal tech solution. But then the challenge, of course, is sales and marketing, and the business side that you're not taught, perhaps. So I love that combination. Um, for the most part, technical people get the business learning later. You're the opposite. You got the business learning first, and you got the technical skills later, and both work. Both of them work.
They do.
And Shibin, because you've never been to I should say you've never worked in the U.S. You never came here for work. Have you visited ever?
Yeah, I did come there for work. I came twice.
I see.
One time to Boston, and then second time to Minneapolis. So I came. I think the first time I came for Motorola, and then
Hmm.
second time it was for MoneyGram, which a money transaction firm.
And did you come for a short-term business trip, or did you sort of relocate here for a year or a couple of years?
It was a short-term business
I
trip,
see.
and
Yeah,
most of like both the visits I came there in winter,
I
and
see.
then
Oh,
like
right,
I
right.
just
Right.
ran off.
Minnesota in the winter is not the proper introduction to the
Yes.
United States.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah, and I was curious because a lot of times, of course, on the immigration side, when you go through the process yourself, you think to yourself, okay, well,
Yeah.
how can this be better?
Okay. So yeah, I did process my L1 when I was in my like last company EY. I didn't travel because I had my son at that time. So yeah, I had my L1 processed, and then I had to go through the like all the forms and all the process that is involved, right, for L1.
Hmm. And how did you feel about that process? I mean, not about the company, but just in general, thinking about immigration as a whole for the U.S.
Like like right now, so you don't take that like when you're asked to process your visa and all those things, right? You don't actually take that seriously, right? Someone from globe like the mobility team will ping you, say that you have to process your visa, then they will give you some documents to fill, and you'll have to write something about yourself and the work that you did, and then you always put it off, right? And then no one does, like when you actually process your visa, it's very difficult. You try to put it off as long as possible, and then one fine day you'll write everything, and then you'll make a lot of mistakes, right? You will fill out all the documents wrong, and then someone will have to fill it for you. So it was a tedious process, but 90% of the work will be done by the paralegal and attorney in the firm.
Hmm.
All you had to do is like when you're going for L1, you have to give a write up on what you actually did, right, in the company, and then why you're having a specialized knowledge so that you can travel to the US. You have
Right.
to, and it's very difficult when you have to like create that. You have this writer's block kind of thing. You can do the work, but you cannot write it. So I found that difficult, and then and I can understand, like when we are processing the visas for now, right? We can see the documents coming in, the way the documents and the data is being fed into a system. There is no correlation, and I can relate to that because like no one actually puts effort from an foreign national side to
Hmm.
actually put the right data and then process it.
And then Raj,
So
on your end, when you came to the U.S., you were already done studying, so you didn't come on an F1, correct?
No, I came
Right.
on an H1. Yes. Yeah, on an H1.
You
That's
came
right.
on an H1B when it wasn't even anything close to what it is today with the crazy lottery and the lower cap and
That's right.
um, yeah.
That's right. There was, I mean, the tech industry was not, grown that much. I think it exploded into 2000 with the Y2K. Yeah, that was
Hmm.
the big rush of I think the people coming from foreign nationals coming into the United States to support the Y2K. Uh,
Hmm.
so that was, I think, which sparked pretty much a lot of those things, right? The explosion of tech industry into the United States from with foreign nationals. But before then, yes, it was pretty light, and it was not that much. But I do remember filling out those forms and answering all those questions. It was tedious, and it was very it's difficult at sometimes filling out those forms as a foreign national, because the questions that are asked can't be related to the place of stay where you are, right? Like if you're from a foreign country, you don't correlate a zip code to a pin code.
Right.
There are different types of things in there. So it was a different. It was quite difficult to answer some of the questions that we found in the questionnaire. Even though now I come to United States, lived here for so long now, it's very simple for me. But I remember those days where it was not that easy to answer some of those questions.
So I think this is an interesting point, and so many times, especially in our industry, whether it's somebody who worked as an immigration lawyer like myself, and I dealt with it on the service provider side, or pretty often like you both, right? I mean, you went through the process, you filled out the forms, you were exposed to U.S. immigration, and you found a lot of challenges with it, or at the very least, you said, "Look, this works, but it doesn't work great. It can be so much better with technology today." So I guess I'm curious to ask kind of when did you guys start talking about the idea of starting something?
And maybe it's not this. Maybe you wanted to start a restaurant, but it takes a certain type of, especially when it's two people who have known each other for a very long time, which obviously you two have, to say we should do something together. We should start a business. How did that first conversation get started with the two of you?
Go ahead,
Yeah, I can
Shibin.
answer that. Yeah, so like when I got my job, as I mentioned, I was in automation, and then the like after 1 week, the thing that struck me is like, can I automate my job, right? Whatever software development that I'm doing, is there a way to do that? And then I explored that opportunity. Like, see, this is like in 2008. I'm talking about like 2006, 2008, and I figured out that AI is the only way to do it, right? You have to, if you have to do like create a software that can create a software, then you'll have to do use AI. Like none of the technology that exists will can do that. So I started learning that, and then doing some small projects. And at that time, I came to US for the first time in 2008. And Raj, I don't, Raj, I was staying in Boston and he was staying in Connecticut, right? And I don't know whether he was going for a job. So he used to like drive every day from like 130 miles from Connecticut to Boston. By the time I come from office, and he'll be sleeping in the car. He'll take me for lunch, or basically take me for dinner and drop me, and then go back. So in those discussions, like when we have dinner, right? I used to tell him, right, there is something called AI, and then we should, like, I'm trying to build something in that, and then he'll say, yeah, we should build something in that space, and then he used to always support me. All my brothers, right? I have like six brothers and three sisters. So everyone is like extremely supportive. And so when it came to something with respect to like AI and immigration, and he was the right guy to talk to because he was able to understand it immediately. And so that, like, this happened in 2019 December sometime. No, 2022 December. So that is when we discussed about uh, the company and the product, and then I showed a demo to him, and then he was like, see, as you mentioned just now, right? I am a technical person, and I always think in that, like, the basic thing to build and then show that to the client, and then I believe that, like, I felt that it'll be impressive, and then he immediately pointed out that this is not a complete product, you have to build and everything, and then he helped me with that. I think he was doing the green card for his um,
Parents.
like parents, right, at that time. So he was actually doing filling the forms, and then he
Ah.
was immediately able to relate it. And so that is when we started with this, right? And yeah.
Shibin, so when was the first time that you were introduced to this sort of concept of AI? It sounds like it was quite a long time ago when it wasn't, there was no chat GPT, and there was, it wasn't in the news every
Yeah.
day. So what was it back then, from your perspective?
So, like, when I used to like talk about AI, right, in my room when I was staying with my friends at that time, they will think I am crazy, right? What is AI? Um, and so what I used to do is, like, there is nothing that you can find on internet mostly, and then I used to subscribe. Um, you can subscribe to the like MIT's, right? MIT libraries, and online libraries, and then the courses that you can do from, like, whatever is happening in computer science with respect to AI. You can subscribe to that. You can take an like buy an yearly subscription for that. And I used to learn using that. And also had a subscription for, like, I think the Harvard Med, right? They had an online library, so they had like a big massive book on neuroscience and everything. So that is, so my idea of AI is, like, if you can replicate what is happening in your brain, you will be able to, like, in a way that computer understand, then you will be able to build an AI. So that is what I spend most of the time. I used to, like, spend my personal time mostly all these years in building products in AI. Never came out, but, like, I'll just build it, and when the technology is done right, a small thing, then I feel, yeah, it's fine. Then I'll continue with my, like, day to day 9 to 5.
What sort of, I mean, I understand that maybe what you built didn't become maybe a product or a company, but what were you building? Was it something that can read text or understand an image, or like you said, maybe
Mm,
create code, something like that?
yeah, so the first thing that I built was an phone assistant kind of thing. So what it does is like it'll like once you it'll learn the patterns in your phone, and then the idea is like you have a lot of apps in your phone, right? So it'll as you use your phone, it'll gradually learn the patterns on what all apps that you use at what time, and then so idea is like when you about to click an application, right? The application that you want to click will be in front of the like in the home screen even before you know it, kind of thing. So
Hmm.
um, it's like you travel to a certain place on Saturday, right? Kind of thing, and then you want to book a cab for that. So it's a pattern that has happened for like last 5 years or like 3 years. Then on Saturday at 11 a.m. you will have an the Uber app in the home screen. Just before you want to click it, it'll be open, right? Things
Hmm.
like that. So
Interesting.
it's not like it didn't work perfectly, but it was fine. This is like in 2012 or 13. Like when we had phones, 2013 or 14, something like sometime.
It's amazing. So,
Like
so you were
yeah,
thinking about, when other people were building mobile apps at the time that mobile was really starting to grow, you were already thinking like a layer up and say, how can we make these phones even smarter to assist human beings by learning patterns and by making decisions on their own?
yeah. I think now Google, like if you use an Android phone, Google does that, right? So sometime when you have this Google Maps always enabled, um, like on a Saturday morning, you'll get an alert saying that the distance to your wife's house is like not distance, the traffic to your wife's house is 5 minutes, and then um, and you will like I had this experience, right? Distance to my wife house is like 5 minutes in traffic, and then I was wondering why Google is showing me that. And then when I lift my
Hmm.
head, and my wife says, "Let's go to my house." So Google knows that
Yeah.
even before my
Wow.
wife is saying that, right?
Wow. I love that.
So
Yeah.
that is like pattern recognition. It happens like we used to travel every 2 weeks. So this was like an alternate weekend we were supposed to travel, and then it's already showing that. So things like that.
Mhm. Amazing. So as AI has progressed, I mean, now it's everyone talks about AI, even people who are not in the technology industry, they hear about it. They kind of are starting to understand that it thinks, and in a way, and people are scared. I mean, there's all sorts of emotions and feelings about it, but that means it's in the mainstream. So how have you watched AI develop in general, as somebody who's been thinking about it, basically building it since before, when it was very bleeding edge? I mean, this was something that no one was talking about. How have you seen AI develop, where now it's starting to become commercialized?
Yeah. Um, okay. So something actually interesting happened in 2016, right? Like there was like a lot of open source algorithms, and it's like 50 lines of code in Python, and then you give it like whatever data that you want to give, and it'll learn that. And then Google was giving you GPUs for free at that time. You can use something called Colab, and that like in 2016, 17 at that time, like the technology to automate most of the things, most of the like repetitive task was I think it existed from 2016 or 17, and I was working in EY at that time. So I had this dream to automate automation, right? So I figured that this is something that can be done now. So what I did is like okay, just to give you a brief about EY, like EY is like an amazing company that to work in, and they will actually support innovation. At least that is my belief. And so I had this like, and if you do something interesting, right? If you do anything that is interesting outside your 9 to 5, EY will reward you in a way that you'll feel guilty that you didn't work enough. Right? That's every appraisal cycle I used to feel guilty that, and then my wife will say, "You got your bonus? Yes." I'll say yes. And then you're sad? Yes, I'm sad. You didn't work enough? No, you didn't work enough. I feel you feel that you didn't work enough? Yes. So it just motivates, and so I thought like I should build something for EY, and then as and I invested actually my money and build a product, and then so what it basically does is like automates my job, 80% of my job what I was doing in EY, and then gave it to EY and presented to EY, and then they were like super excited. This is like in 2019 when so the technology for like AI, right? The baseline of AI was already there in 2016, 17, and 18. So what OpenAI and everyone like what I did is like I took the data that was relevant to me, took the algorithm that was available, and trained the model. Right. Same thing is like what OpenAI did is like they took the algorithm from what Google published, and then took data and then trained it and built ChatGPT. Similar thing. So if you're in the space, you'll know that this paradigm shift happened. And so I built that product, and then um, then I realized that it's and then in 2022 GPT-2 launched sometime in that time. GPT-2 launched
And
like
sorry for those who are listening, GPT-2
is like the predecessor to GPT, ChatGPT. So one version behind. Like now we have GPT-4, right? Before that you had GPT-3. So GPT-2
yeah.
was like if you are in that community, like if you keep searching on AI and all those things, GPT-2 was like the major breakthrough. And I realized that if you don't do like I had this passion of doing AI, and then if I don't do anything now, I'll just feel left out. So that's
Mm.
why I thought of resigning this amazing company. Like it was like a golden handcuffs. You when you feel like
Yeah.
resigning, they'll give you an appraisal and you stay there. And I spent 10
Yeah.
years there.
But
So
but
that
then
is
you felt
and
that and you felt that after GPT-2 came out and you suddenly saw what's possible, and you thought to
yeah,
yourself, if I don't do something now, I don't try to build a company and I don't try to use everything I've learned and the vision that you've had really for a number of years, you'll miss out.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. So basically, the saddest day in my life is like in a year for me is always my birthday, because like when I was working, I'll feel that okay, 1 year has passed. I didn't do anything. I didn't become an entrepreneur, and like uh, I used to feel all that for like last 10 years, and then I resigned. Now I don't like I don't have time for birthday. So
Yeah, that's right.
Look at that,
That's a
you can realize it.
yeah,
So I love that, and I could relate to that quite a bit. I mean, I didn't spend 10 years in any one company, but I think I always sort of, I watched people build great companies, and I knew that I had ideas and I had experience and thoughts about how to build certain things, and just the itch of wanting to do that is sometimes it just gets too strong, and you have to listen to it.
yeah,
So Raj, when did you come into the picture? I know you were talking about it when Shibin was visiting, and you talked about let's build something, but now there's this point in time where there's actually there's a business. And I think Shibin, you left EY when you kind of felt that you were going to go all in on Inception AI.
yes.
So how did Raj, just to shift to you, how did you guys actually finally settle on this concept of building an AI based product, and then importantly from there, um, how did it fall into the immigration space?
So yeah, so Shibin had a few ideas that he was working on, and then one thing that uh, we thought that we could easily bring to market was the immigration AI infinity that we have developed right now, right? He showed me that, and I said, yes, yes, this is something that we can work with, right? We have the biggest, you have solved the major problem, you have solved the biggest case, the biggest use case for this, right? The problem has been solved with your what you had showed me, the POC that he had showed me. We wanted to put it all together as a package solution that can be used for the business, right? For immigration space. And that's where we took it to the next level, right? Like we looked at what solution he had built, and how do you commercialize that solution so that it can be used by the business here in the United States, right? So um, My experience
Mhm.
working in IT has given me a lot of flavors of working with different types of businesses, and you know, we've seen some of the pain points when a business has to adapt to new technology, right? So we went to the drawing board. We looked at what are the biggest problems statements that we have to solve if you have to bring a product like this in the market, right? It's quite cutting edge because you know, the challenge that I see with AI is that it is quite a powerful technology that's out there, right? But how could you leverage that technology and bring it into your business that is that you can really add value to your business, right? Like everybody knows ChatGPT is there, right? So it is available. It's pretty much available to anybody who can, at a very small price, right? But how can you really leverage something like that and for your business? That's a real use case, right? So we had that use case in our mind, and then we started piecing it, breaking it out into different pieces, and then we thought, okay, so it has to be a simple solution, right? Whatever we are bringing into the market, it has to be simple. It has to be the usability of that has to be quite effortless, right? We don't want these are some of the core things that went into when we were building out this product, right? We don't want the business to change. How can we make a product so that business, when they see a product, they say, yes, I want that, but I don't want my business to change. I don't want my processes to change, because that's one of the biggest roadblocks when you have to implement a new technology, right? Bring in a
Yep.
new technology. How do you overcome that fear, right? And then we wanted to say, whatever we're going to bring, it has to be very efficient, right? So we put some of those core goals in mind, and we designed Infinity, right? So what came out of it was um, in my opinion, a very unique solution that is in this industry, because you know it allows you. It's very simple. The implementation is pretty simple. It works in the background, so there's no UI. So you don't need to train your people to use this new technology, right? It just works so seamlessly with whatever business processes you currently have, right? Every business is unique. Within
And by the way, when you say business right now, you're talking about immigration law firms.
immigration, yeah, every law
Yes.
firm has their own business processes, and I've seen this throughout the industry, right? You could be working in the same vertical space as as in the industry. So uh, all immigration firms, they'll be doing the same thing but a different way, right?
Mhm.
So they will be having a case management system, um, all of them differently, right? They use that same case management system very differently, right? They use a document management system very differently. Everything, they may have the same solution, but use it differently. So how can we adapt to that, right? So we don't want the business to change. How can our solution add value to that, so that it is easy for them to integrate our technology, our product into their workspace, right? So that was our core goals,
Uh,
and we came with
um,
Infinity.
so I want to take a quick pause here because I want to ask you now what Infinity does. But before we do that, I do just want to take a very small pause and at this time and say thank you to our second sponsor, which happens to be docketwise, an immigration case management platform. So for anybody who's listening, immigration lawyers, if you are not using docketwise and are curious about it, docketwise is an all-in-one immigration case management platform with really leading or best in class immigration form software, customizable questionnaires, quite sophisticated integrations with a lot of different platforms, including Laborless, a great customer service. And what I should say, what I really like about docketwise too, as just a company, is, they have a lot of great content, blogs, webinars, podcasts. They sponsor shows like this. They support and create a lot of content for the immigration industry. So I really appreciate that about the platform as well. So if you're an immigration lawyer and you're interested, check out docketwise.com. You can click on the link below in the show notes here, or just reach out to them and say that you heard about them from the GMI Rocket Show. And, you could do a demo and see how they can help support your firm. So, and to that point, Raj, what I really want to get into here is, so you saw, Shibin had this product, you, Raj, saw it, you said this is definitely marketable. There is space for this to solve problems for a lot of businesses. You're effectively launching within the immigration industry. And I think, Shibin, you mentioned this, that you were going through the green card process for your parents. So immigration was top of mind. You were filling out forms, you were grading document, you were collecting documentation for their application. What was this first iteration of what has become Infinity? What did it do, leveraging AI?
To simply put it in a few words, which is much more than this, but um, Infinity is a visa drafting AI technology, a product, that fully automates the end-to-end um, visa drafting process. Okay, it requires no manual intervention, using only the documents that's provided by the applicant um, to prepare a complete visa application draft in just 15 minutes. That's a very high level of what it does, right? When it does that, it touches the entire workflow of your business, of your organization, right, of your firm. So we made it so simple that all you need to provide Infinity is a documents that you need to prepare, right? And then in your CMS, you could just say, yeah, we have all the documents. Let's start processing. And Infinity would grab data from those documents, extract that data from there. It will fill out the forms. It will update your CMS. It will prepare the forms in draft if you need to be, so that it can be reviewed by an attorney or a case manager. And then it updates the CMS, appropriately based on your business processes. It it uploads these documents in a standardized way into your document management system. It sends notifications and reminders throughout the entire workflow, saying that, hey, the LCA was prepared 7 days ago. It's time for you to start submitting the visa application. It generates support letters in the template that your organization needs, your client needs, right? It puts together all the evidence together. It prepares the entire docket. All of this, right, end to end, in less than 10 to 15 minutes. And our solution is so simple and adaptable that you can integrate with any CMS or any document management system out there. So that's
So the idea would be that, so let's take docketwise, for example, right? Just because we brought them up. Docketwise is an immigration CMS. Through the platform, a client will send out a questionnaire to the, let's say, to the beneficiary, the person applying for the visa. They fill out personal information. Maybe there's work and job information if it's a work visa. They're able to upload certain documents, through the docketwise platform. You obviously have some information. If we're talking about an H-1B, you have some information about the petitioner, right? So the employing company. So docketwise is sort of that single source of truth, if you will, for this particular case. You got the info, you've got the documents. It's a particular case type, so there will be certain forms involved, like I-129, G28, et cetera, let's say, for an H-1B. So Inception AI, the idea is that it sits as a layer on top of all of this, right? It extracts certain information, forms, et cetera, and it effectively does this analysis and drafting process of everything that you tell it needs to do for, let's say, an H-1B. And then in 15 minutes, you get back your filled out draft I-129. You get, a letter that's supposed to be, that's drafted on behalf of the company. Maybe you get a drafted G28. You have all of the documents that have been brought in by the petitioner or the beneficiary kind of in one place, in a series that makes sense for the H-1B application. Is that sort of the idea? And then the idea is you review it. Is that kind of, I'm assuming here, but that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Right. So remember, Shibin said he wants to automate everything that he does at work.
Yeah.
Right. That's what he did. Okay. That's what we did as a team. We put together the entire process of creating that visa docket, right? That you would have to submit to USCIS. Fully automated it.
Yeah, and to add to that, right? So it starts with LCA. So like when the data is ready for LCA, it will do the LCA, then update the LCA, the certified LCA, and track the LCA status and everything. And when the documents are ready, as you mentioned, works on top of the any CMS like docketwise or filevine or INA Zoom, and then the documents I-129, it keeps track of the latest I-129s and all this. So that lies actually outside. It's not part of the CMS. It lies out inside Infinity. So it actually updates automatically the latest I-129s and the forms that needs to be updated, and then fills the form, take care of the compliance on that side, fills the form, generates a single PDF, which will have starting with the cover letter G28 I-907 if it is premium, then I-129, and then if you have dependents, then it'll fill I-539, all the, and then if you have EAD, it'll fill I-765, and then it'll organize the documents and evidences as per the firms and the client's requirements. So if you see like a different client will have in a firm, a different client will have a different, even if it is the same H1B, right? They will have a different order of the documents and the way the data is presented in the cover letter. So it will do all those things and generate the final docket that an attorney or a paralegal can review. So the idea is to save the time, right? It used to take 2 hours. Now it takes 15 minutes.
So, okay, so if this is created for attorney review, what happens when the attorney needs to edit? Where are they able to make edits to the forms, to the documents, to the order of things, etc.?
So, as I mentioned, the output is a PDF, okay, and the output that Infinity generates is an editable PDF. So, if you want to like change the something like a data issue, right, of some document, and then you can directly change in the PDF that Infinity generates, and then save it. And reordering again, it's like you can use any PDF tool to reorder it if you find it is wrong. So that is like whatever the tools that they already have, right? They can use a tool. The PDF is editable, so you can make the changes and then save it as a non-editable PDF once you have reviewed. If you see any errors.
I see. And then I'm asking these questions because I think a lot of people would be interested in this kind of analysis as well. If a lot of the questions that I see within the immigration tech space is, okay, when I make a change in a form, I need that change to be reflected back in the CMS, right? Because if there's because the data, incorrect data could be on one end or the other. Is there that sort of connectability? Is that possible? How does that kind of a thing work?
Yeah, so we currently don't have whatever Infinity updates like in the forms, right? The data that Infinity generates on the documents, it'll update on the forms and it'll go back to the CMS and update in CMS also. The data that Infinity used to process the case. But if you make a change in, like if someone edits in Infinity final docket, currently it does not reflect in the CMS. But we are building an integration with a new CMS now, so we are trying to build that feature into it.
Yeah, and I think that's really always the answer, right? I mean, my view is that there are more products now in the immigration space than there ever were, and it's not going to stop, and I think API normalization is really important for our industry. I think integrating a lot of different platforms to make a customizable solution for a law firm is the way forward, because I think a lot of immigration lawyers understand, like you said, Raj, they have different ways of doing something. Every firm who does an H-1B, they have their process is slightly different from everybody else. And so there will never be a platform that will be most likely exactly the way that they need it to be, because it's slightly different. So the question is, how do you sort of make technology be flexible and work for you rather than feel like you're working for it. And I think integration is key. So it's great to hear that. And actually, I just as a note for the rest of the industry, let's we have to all come together for and agree on an API structure and agree on opening up APIs and sharing with one another, and then sort of offering that as the kind of all-in-one solution, if you will, because it's really partnership between, I think, different companies rather than expecting one company to do absolutely everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's not just about like what when we started working on this, right? The idea, like when I envisioned it, the um, I thought it will be simple, because like the output is always the same, right? Any company, any US immigration firm who's working on creating a docket, finally they have to fill the I-129 form, right? The output is always the same. So I was under the assumption that it should be like it is an ideal case for automation, where you can generate the output as the same. Now, when we work with firms, what we see is like inside the same firm, you will have different um, the way each attorney handles the same H-1B case is slightly different. And then you like a firm can have a client who is also who is also supported by a different firm, right? So you can have like suppose Google is there, and then Google the immigration is split across two immigration firms, right? So
Right.
they do that. And then what we saw is like the same firm, the same document, the way the data is presented in by like IBAL is different from the way that data is presented by Fragment for the same firm, right? So there is like so much um, difference and minute differences that happens across, even for a single like a single H1B amendment. Same thing is like entirely different in the same firm itself. There is no standardization kind of thing. So we are trying to build that standardization inside a firm. Like once we build, like as we like partner with different firms, we hope that at least these things will get standardized, because when they use Infinity, the whole thing will be standardized.
Mm.
That,
So
that's
basic, yeah. Go ahead,
yeah.
Raj.
We've seen that as a challenge, right? Like from a firm's perspective, because of these different flavors of the same thing floating around, right? So they're sometimes surprised to see, hey, why does somebody do it this way, right? What's the need of it, right? So we want to see standardization across the firm, so it's easier to manage and easier to accept, and from a business process perspective, right? So that's something that was suggested, that when we work with the firms, they request that we do certain things, and then we are um, from our perspective, it is we're happy really to encourage their feedback, and then we adapt to whatever their business processes are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that streamlines their business process, that brings in more efficiency. So, and another good example is like where document management, right? So you sometimes you miss to upload a document there, right? A human, it's humanly possible to make mistakes, right? So sometimes people don't upload historical documents there, and then when you have to refer back to that case again, and then you have to look for the history of that case and find a particular document, it's missing. But having a technology like this doing that portion of work for you, it's always given that it's going to be there. The structure is always going to be the same. All that standardization across the industry, across your firm, it's
So
possible.
part of the work with or part of the way that you would can help firms is before you even bring in the technology, it's kind of understanding what their current process is, helping them standardize it, and say, okay, now that it's been standardized, this is where technology can come in and really create efficiency, because standardization means that you can automate it.
We
Yeah,
a slight twist, right? Slight. We
Okay.
work with a business to understand what their current processes are, right? And we say, okay, we will adapt. We don't want you to change, but we will adapt to your business
Mm-hmm.
process, right? As a part of that, when we do that, right, they will see a lot of places where they can bring standardization. We don't recommend it, right? They would find it within themselves that, hey, this can be done. This process can be standardized. Why don't we do that? Then they say, hey, do this. We implement that. That
I see.
way, as an organization, we are not the one who is enforcing the change. They enforce it themselves, right? But every process can be made more efficient, so that's where I think that we add a lot of value as well.
Mhm.
This is a byproduct really of what Infinity um, does, right? So it is not what Infinity is meant for. Infinity is meant for automating a lot of things. As an added advantage, you can bring all these bigger benefits into your organization as well.
Shubin, you were going to say something on that?
No, I was just going to say
Ah,
that like see the when like we build a product, right? Your first customer actually designs it for you, right?
yeah,
You that
yeah.
is when that is how it happens. So when they say that they want to do it in this way, we'll do it. We will do anything that they want, right? Just so that it's easy for integration. Like for them, it should be like effortless, and then there should be zero learning curve. That is our idea. So um, we customize this in whatever way they want, um, and then build the product in that way. And then when you have a new customer, we'll do the same for them. Um, but then, as Raj mentioned, and that is when there will be one person who will be like who will be responsible for implementing Infinity in a company, right? And that person will identify that okay, every clients, every documents are processed in different way for no particular reason, right? There is no need for doing that and this and this. So that person will enforce the standards. But if they suggest that they want it this way, we'll do it that way. So
Mhm.
from our side, it's like we will integrate it in any way that it is there.
So let me ask you this, where do you guys see the business continuing to grow, right? I mean, you're now working with some law firm, immigration law firms. You support, what do you support? H-1B, L-1s,
Yeah.
yeah, and a few other visa types, adjustment of status applications. Where do you see the growth within the immigration industry? I'm sure this product probably has applicability to lots of other industries as well, but for now, within the immigration industry, where do you guys see the company going, the product growing?
So currently, as you mentioned, we have integrations with H1, AOS, I-140, and PERM, and then we have received a lot of feedbacks on implementing E3, TNs, and all those things. So that'll be our first priority. Um, and we are launching a new version like in June, which will have integration with. Currently, we have integration with INSO, and we are launching a new version which is faster and then has an easier onboarding of new clients. Right? Currently, if you have a client, if a firm has a new client, it takes around 2 days to onboard that client into Infinity. Now, with our new version, it will be like 2 hours. So that is like in 2 weeks from now, and then post that when we worked with like when we have discussions with the big firms, right, top 1 or top 5, when they see this application and they usually suggest the applicability in different spaces outside immigration law. They want to use it in some other space. So what they suggest is like they wanted to like one firm suggested to implement Canada immigration for them, and then the other firm wanted to use the AI part of it for a legal drafting purpose, kind of. So that is our immediate goals with respect to Infinity, and then that is in the legal space. And then the whole idea of Inception AI is to bring products in, like do research in AI as a in a broader space, and then bring products something similar to AGI sometime in the future. So that is the goal.
Amazing, amazing. That's really cool. And of course, I'll have a million more questions for you guys on the product side as time goes on. Right now, I mean, as we think about this show, what would be helpful to you guys? You're starting out, you're a startup, you're coming to events, etc. What would be helpful to you from the immigration kind of industry? Is it law firms reaching out to learn more? Is it case management companies seeing, or other tech platforms seeing how they can maybe partner with you or integrate with you? What's your kind of immediate ask, if you will, of the industry?
We have um, first and foremost, like, we are in a space which is quite unique. So one of the biggest thing is that, it's very hard for folks to get an idea of what we does, because it does so many things, right, for you, right? So immediately, so if anybody's interested, we have a demo that we can give, which gives you a very good idea on how this operates, right? So um, and we make ourselves very openly available to anybody. Like I said, our goal is to have a happy customer, right? Who can really take advantage of the technology. So,
So
um, y- go ahead.
yeah, just
Oh,
to add to that, like the immediate goal is like to have immigration firm work with immigration firms, understand, and then the process and then implement for them. We
yeah,
have also started partnership with um, law, like the CMS firms.
same as.
So they have reached out to us. For one of the CMS firms have reached out to us. So we are mostly probably going to build an integration so that it's like Infinity is a feature inside the CMS. We would love to integrate with um, the
Oh,
CMS that is available and partner with them. So that is like these are the two things that we are looking out for. We have like 0% social media presence as of now. So actually, we spent the last 6 to 8 months building the product, and then have like this is our first H1B cap season for the system, right? So we just wanted the system to be ready to process that volume for the client. So now we are thinking about letting people know about the product, and that is what we are looking for.
yeah.
Well,
So,
once this H1B cap season ends, it'd be great to hear your experiences, and hopefully you guys do share some
Yeah,
content on social media.
one thing that I can share now is like we are doing cap for a client, and then they are actually processing their yearly volume in a month, right? So whatever volume that they do the entire year non-cap, they're doing it in a month. And then I had this idea like the system should be able to automatically scale and then do it, right? So what the system does is like when you have 500 cases to process, it'll process like it'll have parallel processing and then process 500 cases simultaneously and then complete it in the same day. Um, and so ideally for this something like this, you need a cloud environment kind of thing. And now what we are doing is like we just Infinity actually stays inside the firm's network, so nothing goes out from the firm, right? We install the entire application inside the for the data security purpose because we are dealing with BI data, right? So what we realized is like to process that volume, we just needed 3 VMs. That is their like actual virtual machines in their server room, actual laptops in their server room, and Infinity runs in that 24/7 and is processing the same volume that they do in a year in a month. So um, it has been interesting so far. It's like only 2 weeks now, so we'll see how it goes, right? And we have 2 more months to go.
yeah, it's really, it's a scalability perspective. The seasonal demands of the industry that it has. We are able to meet that without having to bring on board additional resources. So that adds a lot of value to the customer, to take on more clients and be able to meet their demands, seasonal demands, without having to grow within the resource side of their end. And the best other part of this is also the training, that we eliminate the need of training, right? Because we're not inventing anything new. It's exactly what your business does, and so there's no need to train somebody to use this our product either. So nothing changes on your end, on the client's end, when you're implementing this technology. It just simplifies a lot of things, right? Like some of the questionnaires that you currently look at had 100 plus questions. With implementing Infinity, you could really enhance your client's experience by just having 5 or 10 questions in them. You know, when you're giving a four national 100 questions to fill out versus 5 questions or 10 questions to fill out, he's much more happy to fill that out right away than he has to fill out the 130 questions, right? So there's a lot of value that this product adds to the business, which is very unique out there. And then we do definitely want to partner with CMSs out there, which is we see ourselves as a solution which works alongside other technologies and other service providers out there, right? Other technological products out there, which will enhance all of their products, right? So we are not. We see ourselves complementing everything out there, right?
Yeah, and I think that's important. Coming from my side, that's exactly where Laborless sits. We don't replace anything. We complement case management platforms. We complement your existing processes. We basically just take certain parts of the process totally out of the physical world and automate them and turn them into digital world, which is great. And because I have seen across the immigration industry, the challenge of switching is really present, and it makes sense. Switching, like you said earlier, you have to learn a new UI, you have to train your staff, you have to transition files. So I'm excited. I'm interested to see how this continues. I'm excited for you guys, and congrats on everything you've built so far. And yeah, we're going to keep track of Inception AI, and I'm sure to see you both, or maybe you, Raj. Although Shibin, I hope you come to the US for some conferences at least sometime in the near future.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
So thank you guys for this. Thank you guys for for being here, for sharing the story. Again, really interesting and exciting, and it's very cool to see more and more applications of artificial intelligence within the immigration industry, both in terms of form filling and also kind of generative AI. So wishing you guys the best, and let's keep in touch and see if you can come on the show again and give us an update at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
I want to say, what you have here, Robin, is pretty great. I mean, this allowed us to show your followers what a product we have, and it is very essential that some channel like this exists. I think you're doing an excellent job at doing what you're doing, and thank you for that. Allowing us to be a part of the show.
And I would like to add, so when I started Inception AI and then started to promote Infinity through LinkedIn. So I was sending connections to everyone, right? Connect requests to everyone, and then I sent a connection request to you, and then you accepted it, and then suddenly I was one mutual connection from everyone in the industry, right? And that helped a lot. I had no connection in the industry, and then I had, when you accepted the connection, then I had everyone was one connection away, and then most of the people accepted my connection and then started to listen. So I'm actually grateful for that, for accepting my request and then helping out. That was really helpful for us.
Yeah,
that's music to my ears. This is we all got to support each other. That's the whole purpose of the show and the whole purpose of our community. So appreciate you guys. That's very kind of you. Thank you. I do want to just say here before we jump, we had a couple of comments here. So Jaidil says, "Go rock stars." Arun says, "Excited for Inception AI." So thanks to you guys again for being on the show. Thank you for folks for watching, and appreciate you guys being on here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. What a great conversation. I think Gen AI within the immigration space has to be continue to be at the forefront of our discussions, because I think it's moving so fast. Huge thank you again to our main sponsor of this episode, Lex Reception. So just again, for anyone who may have missed it, Lex Reception is a legal intake, reception and client support service. They answer phone calls and messages in real time from prospective clients, from existing clients, so that you as an immigration law firm, you don't have to worry about missing inquiries from clients or prospects while you're busy with your practice. They also, Lex Reception can also proactively reach out on your behalf to anybody who's filled out the form and sort of build that relationship and get them into a position to hopefully hire your immigration law firm. They partner with other platforms in the industry, Practice Panther, Clio, LawPay, and others, so that you can have Lex Reception built into your process. And then, of course, if you listen to the show and you want to check out Lex Reception, $250 off, $250,000 off your first month of service with them. Check the link below or in the comments, in the show description, or just reach out to them and say that you heard about Lex Reception from the GMI Rocket Show. So with that, thanks everybody again for joining, and see you on the next episode. And of course, in the meantime, have a wonderful weekend and stay safe. Thanks, everyone.